Are we live? Oh, sorry. Good morning, folks, and welcome to the House of God. And for those worshiping online from home, welcome to St. James United Church in Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. We thank you for joining with us here in worship. I still think it's cool that we've got people here and we've got people watching us from home online. The novelty of that has not worn off yet, that we've got both of those at the same time. So thank you for joining us here in worship. Britt, you've got an announcement to make this morning.
Just a brief announcement, yes. On behalf of worship and stewardship, we'd like to present some of the new flooring that's gone down, and many thanks going out to my two sons, as well as Dave Rice. He's been here every day giving a hand. We are not near to completion yet, so it's going to take a while, but just be patient and all of a sudden it'll look beautiful. But anyhow, I got a couple of pictures that I'd like to show. This one's really cool. This is basically what you see now, because that was taken at the end of last night. But I really want you to see the next one.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't see that on a carpeted floor before.
Kyle, can we use that as the thumbnail for today's service when you upload it? Yeah, that's stunning.
So anyway, that was cool. That was yesterday morning when it was freezing cold outside. The sun was shining right through one of those beautiful windows, and that's what you get. So was that. And then I'd also like to say, there's a bunch of reasons why we come to church on any given Sunday. And I would like to say that as we started this floor, there was a lot of very colorful words that were coming out of our mouths as we were doing this. So I would like to seek forgiveness for my sins. That's why I'm here this morning. And as far as stewardship is concerned, we have surpassed the 40% mark in the church renovation costs, and that really, really does need to be celebrated in this day and age of events outside our control. So we'd just like to thank everyone for their contributions. Together we grow. Thanks again.
That's amazing. To be honest, that's exceeded what our original expectations were, what our original hopes were. So thank you, folks, for those of you who have contributed to that. You've blown away our hopes and expectations, exceeded our hopes and expectations on that. So that's fabulous. Any other announcements? All right. Then let's stand and sing. And a reminder that as we are still under COVID protocol, everybody other than the three of us who are staying far apart and far apart from you, you must remain masked while you are singing, and please sing at a whisper level for now so that we keep aerosol to an absolute minimum in here. And if you're at home, sing full voiced into the computer. Yeah. Stand if you wish.
He became sin, who knew no sin, that he might become his righteousness. sacrifice. You became nothing, poured out to death. Many times I wondered at your gift of life. I'm in that place once again. I'm in that place once again. Once again I look upon the cross where you died. I'm humbled by your mercy and I'm broken inside. Once again I thank you. Once again I pour out my life. Jesus Christ, I think upon your sacrifice. You became nothing, poured out to death. Many times I've wondered at your gift of life. I'm in that place once again. I'm in that place once again. Once again I look upon the cross where you died. I'm humbled by your mercy and I'm broken inside. Once again I thank you. Once again I pour out my life. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for the cross, my friend. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for the cross, my friend. Now you are exalted to the highest place, King of the heavens, where one day I'll bow. But for now, I marvel at the saving grace, and I'm full of praise once again. I'm full of praise once again. Once again I look upon the cross where you died. I'm humbled by your mercy and I'm broken inside. Once again I thank you. Once again I pour out my life.
The call to worship is on the screen. I invite you to join me. We are the salt of the earth, called to let the people see the love of God. We are the light of the world, not to be hidden, but to be seen. We are called to make a difference in the world. Please be seated. Let us gather our hearts in prayer. Loving God, we have been called by you today, as every day, to love our neighbors as ourselves. And right now we have neighbors who are suffering. As the pandemic worsens, we're seeing consequences in the world around us. But where there is a need, God, you provide us with an opportunity to serve that need. So we ask you this morning to convict our hearts with the need to serve those who are suffering right now, the need to serve those who are unhoused in Hamilton. Reveal to us how you want us to serve, how we can respond to this growing crisis, because we're ready to serve God. We're ready to serve. We're ready to serve these people on behalf of you. Show us how. Show us what we can do. Inspire us in our worship today to find a way that we, stuck out here in the suburbs, might be able to make a difference in the city. For we have heard the voice of Jesus call us this day. We lift these prayers before you in the name of that Jesus, and all God's people say together, Amen. Our next song is I Heard the Voice of Jesus Say, and you can remain seated or stand if you prefer as we sing this.
I heard the voice of Jesus say, come unto me and rest. Lay down, O weary one, lay down your head upon my breast. I came to Jesus as I was, weary and worn and sad. I found in him a resting place, and he has made me glad. I heard the voice of Jesus say, behold, I freely give the living water. Thirsty one, stoop down and drink living stream. My thirst was quenched and my soul revived, and now I live in him. I heard the voice of Jesus say, I am this dark world's light. Look unto me, your morn shall rise, and all your day be bright. I look to Jesus, and I found in him my star, my sun. And in that light of life I'll walk till traveling days are done.
Sometimes technology doesn't cooperate. Yeah. Everything okay, Kyle? I could just see the panic. You can't see it behind you, but I could see the panic on Kyle's face as the lyrics were freezing on the screen and then jumping all over the place. So when we're using technology live, sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Our scripture reading today comes from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 19, verses 16 through 22, and you're welcome to follow along on the screen. Let us listen for the word of God. Then someone came to him and said, Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life? And he said to him, What do you ask me about what is good? Why do you ask me about what is good? There is only one who is good. If you wish to enter into life, keep the commandments. He said to him, Which ones? And Jesus said, You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and mother. Also, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said to him, I have kept all these things. What do I still lack? Jesus said to him, If you wish to be perfect, go, sell your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. When the young man heard this word, he went away grieving, for he had many possessions. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I had shared last week and through the week that my friend Jessica Compton would be joining us in worship this morning. You don't see her here, but she is indeed joining us in worship this morning, and you'll see her on screen shortly. So, if you want to be perfect, go and sell all your possessions, Jesus says. If you want to be perfect, go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor. And you'll have treasure in heaven, and then, he says, then come and follow me. He doesn't pull any punches in this story. He's been approached by a guy who's got a lot of stuff. Anybody here know a guy who has a lot of stuff? Anybody know a guy who doesn't have a lot of stuff? Is there an adult male alive who doesn't have a lot of stuff, who loves his stuff? That's the guy who's approaching Jesus in this story, the guy with a lot of stuff. And he's also pretty impressed with himself. He thinks he's doing pretty good. And this guy wants to know what he has to do to experience the kind of eternal life that Jesus has been preaching about. And so Jesus reverts to the company line and quotes from the Old Testament law, as if to say, look, dude, you went to school, in the synagogue school, you know the rules. You know all the things you're supposed to do. Why are you asking me? So here you go. Here's what you need to do. Don't murder. Don't cheat on your spouse. Don't steal things that belong to other people. Don't tell lies about other people. Respect your parents. And love your neighbor as yourself. Now, some of those, I think most of us can say, I'm good on that one. I can honestly say I have never committed murder. You'll be relieved to know that. Some of them on that list are a little harder to adhere to perfectly. Respect your parents. Well, most of the time, but there were some times when I was a teenager when I may not have. Love your neighbor as yourself. Nobody, that whole list that Jesus shared with this man, nobody does them all perfectly. But this guy with the stuff thinks he does them all perfectly. Or maybe he's just bragging and showing off in front of the crowd, and he wants everybody to think that he does them all perfectly. Because he claims in front of everybody that he does them all perfectly well. So he says, hey, I do all that. What else do I need to do? And Jesus responds, oh, well, if you want to be perfect, you want to be perfect, do you? If you want to be perfect, well, all that stuff that you have that you seem to care about so much, go and sell all of it and give the proceeds to the poor. And then come and talk to me. And it says, the guy went away grieving. Because the truth is, his stuff was more important to him than anything else, and he didn't like hearing that. A friend of mine is fond of saying that one of the challenges that we face in the church these days is that when we read Bible stories like this, we always want to relate to the good guy in the story, not the bad guy in the story. But the truth is, we do live in a society right now that cares more about its stuff than it cares about the plight of the poor. And that doesn't apply solely to guys like us that have a lot of stuff. I'm talking about society as a whole. As a whole, we care more about our stuff than we care about the plight of the poor. And so this passage applies deeply to us. Right now in Hamilton, we have a municipal government that likes to play NIMBY when it comes to the plight of the homeless in Hamilton. And if that's not a term you're familiar with, NIMBY, not in my backyard. It's okay if we have that problem as long as it's not where I can see it. And so we send the police in to move homeless people out of sight. Where else can they go? We send the police in to shred the tents so they can't use them and can't build their tent cities when they have nowhere to go. Where are they going to go? What's the alternative? And how close, how many crises are any one of us away from joining them? We talked about this crisis on and off for the last several months, but it hasn't gone away. I've showed video footage in worship here in the past that I shot downtown in Hamilton, showing the tent cities that we have in the downtown area. The problem hasn't gone away, and now it's winter. I checked the thermometer when I got up this morning, and it was minus 17. For those of you joining us online who may be from the United States, that's Celsius. That would be rough. Anybody here give me a rough gauge of what that would be in Fahrenheit? That's around 0, isn't it? Fahrenheit? I think so. Really, really cold, maybe even below that. What would it be like with a nylon tent, maybe a sleeping bag and a blanket or two, when it's minus 17 out? I don't know if that provides much shelter. We do have warming shelters that operate through the year and especially during the winter. Several of them in the last 2 weeks have had to shut down because of Omicron outbreaks at the shelter or because of staff shortages because of the Omicron outbreak. As every place is facing staffing shortages right now, hospitals are facing staffing shortages. The shelters have had, several of them have had to shut down. I posted about this online earlier this week and hoping that we might be able to entice some churches in the downtown core to open up, and maybe we can get a flood of volunteers from the suburbs who can come and help. I've since learned that the hub is still open. The United Churches warming center that was started by New Vision, it is open. But there's still a crisis here that needs to be addressed. We've talked about homelessness in the past. Several of you have come and have spoken to me in the past months wanting to help, genuinely wanting to help, but not knowing what to do. The problem feels too big. Where do we start? What little thing can we do that's going to make any difference? What can we do from out here in the suburbs when the problem is down in the core? What can we as a suburban congregation do to help make a difference? Another reality is this congregation is hungry for and needs a new mission project. We excelled with the mask making at the beginning of the pandemic. It put us on the map in this community, got us noticed. It fired us up as a congregation. We had something to rally around. There is a crisis out there that we can take that same energy that we used around the masks to rally around this. I'll be honest, it feels like God's leading us that way. And people in the community are reading the reports in the news, and we have a reputation now in this community as a church that takes action. We have earned, that's a good reputation to have, by the way. We should feel good about that. We have a reputation that we have earned in this community that we are a church that is active in responding to needs in the community, in taking a leadership role in the community. So people, because of that reputation, people are now turning to us going, what are you doing and how can I help? Where can I get on board and participate? And we don't have an answer for that right now. So maybe we can come up with one. It's a big, big need, and it can feel paralyzing to us when we look at the whole big problem. Where do we start? What can we do? Now, I've realized over the last little while that one of our problems in trying to figure out how to respond to this is that for decades, this congregation under the old presbytery system, and for those of you who aren't from the United Church in your background, this won't mean anything to you. I'm speaking in-house right now, so bear with me. Those of you who understand what I mean by the old presbytery system will remember that under the old presbytery system, we were a part of Halton Presbytery, not Hamilton. So it's like there was this big invisible wall down Highway 6 that cut us off from all church communications that direction, so that we as a congregation were better connected to and knew more about what was going on in Burlington, Oakville, and even Mississauga than we knew what was going on in Hamilton or were connected to Hamilton resources. That, I'm realizing, has hindered us. So we don't have the relationships. Other than with Wesley Urban Ministries, we don't have the relationships to the infrastructure that's already existing in Hamilton because our old administrative structure cut us off from that. And with the dissolution of the presbyteries, there's no new infrastructure to connect us. And we're all left to kind of fend for ourselves. So the good news is there are networks within the church there that we can connect into that we're just starting to find out about because that old invisible wall is now gone. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There is stuff there we can connect to. And let's start doing it. But maybe it's even simpler than that. And with that thought, that it may be even simpler than that, I want to introduce you to my friend, Jessica Compton, who runs an organization called Tree of Stars, which began as a child and youth and then adult mental health advocacy and support organization. And Jessica is joining us, if Kyle's ready back there. Am I getting the nod? Yes, Jessica is joining us by video. Jessica, thanks for joining us today in worship at St. James, though this will be tomorrow. For the benefit of those watching, you and I know each other from our time together on the executive of Voices Against Bullying. You are active in, you work in the school system, but you're active outside of that as an advocate for mental health, and with some street-affected experience in your background, which I presume informs and motivates your your recent work in connecting with unhoused people in the Hamilton area. So I'm wondering if you could give folks a sense of your background and what's brought you to the point that you're at now in helping street affected people in Hamilton.
So yeah, my name's Jessica Compton. I grew up in North Bay. I'm in Hamilton for the last 20 plus years. So a bit of my story is, growing up in North Bay as a teenager, I ended up on drugs and being arrested a couple times, maybe 4 times, for what I got caught for anyway. Every time I got arrested, I was back on the streets, and it was just this pattern. And I think that just to kind of back up my story is, yes, there was trauma, there was diagnosis of ADHD, and just feeling very, very broken and lost, and not understanding my story or my background. Being 44 years old today, looking back and understanding all the years of therapy, and all the struggles, and pushing through the struggles to the best of my abilities with, some years of not so much support, and then some years of support. I would have to say that I'm one of the individuals that was super blessed to be incarcerated every single time, because it gave me an opportunity to kind of, be in my head and think and go through, I would go in at 110, 115 pounds, and coming out refreshed at 130 pounds. So not only did I have a roof over my head, but I had, the opportunity to have the 3 meals and a snack and exercise, and making sure that I was having the showers. So fast forwarding to, I had to wait 11 years to clear my criminal record. And, just for anybody that's watching, those, you can reach out to me and ask me more details for my story, but I wanted to, stay focused to the best of my abilities on this topic of homelessness. And, going to college and graduating from the correctional worker program to work in the jails. I never end up working for the jail system, but what I end up doing is working 15 years at a group home. And that gave me an opportunity to, utilize my life experiences with these kids to say, these are the do's and don'ts, and mentor them and parent them and nourish their mindset to, a level of like, hey, when you turn 18, there's not as many supports. And so yeah, I think, and also being in the school board and seeing, parents struggle just with incomes, and, just seeing so many struggles with so many people, but being in recovery, and staying connected to community throughout the pandemic and even before the pandemic. I've always had a heart, for anybody that's willing to kind of listen and put a plan in place to change their lives. And, and that kind of brings me to what I do in the community for the last 4 years. So I go out in the community and I run some workshops. Everybody's welcome. Those workshops are more like self-care groups. There's some music and meditation and some journaling. But I also, collect in the last, since November, I've collected, items. So yeah, so before the pandemic, I was going to a place called Small Scale Farms out in Niagara. They were giving some grocery bags to the community. And one of the things I did that was super exciting is any kind of volunteer hours that I'd put in at Small Scale, they would give me grocery bags of fresh produce, and I would bring it to the group home. And some of the kids, they were like, what is that? And I'm like, it's a zucchini. So yeah, I would put in the hours. I would volunteer 5 hours a week. And in that 5 hours, I was also prepping food. I was doing some gardening, and I would bring that food back to the group homes. And because we were on a budget, I had 6 boys, and, I would teach them about volunteer work. I would teach them about the benefits of volunteering, not only for ourselves, but other people. And so yeah, they thought it was really awesome that I would go volunteer to bring in them fruits and vegetables. And we would have, So yeah, during the pandemic, I also, some musicians that went from an income of 10,000 a month to 2,000. I would bring produce to their doorstep from small scale farms. So I'd drive out to Niagara, fill up my vehicle as much as I could, and just go and drive. There was an elderly lady that I knew that she was 87. She lost her husband throughout the pandemic, so we would just drop off every Friday fresh produce to her door. So just reaching out to individuals, not necessarily that they were homeless, but just struggling in a financial way and keeping them well. Uh, and then recently, November of this past year, there was a friend of mine that I grew up with up here in North Bay that had moved to Hamilton, and his cousin had reached out to me saying that he was struggling, he was on the streets, and he needs some support, and if there's anything I could do. I gave him a list of resources that I know in Hamilton of shelters, safe injection sites, and just places that would give blankets, anything. And as we know it, everybody's struggling financially. So I sat there and I was like, how can I help? So I created a Facebook group and I just threw it out there. People that I knew, if they wanted to give a blanket, and my good friend Holly Smith, I'll give her a shout out. She's a musician. She said, why don't you use my garage? And I was like, that's awesome. I can use your garage. I'll collect donations. So people started dropping stuff off at my place. I'd bring the stuff to the garage and I would organize it and put together comfort bags. And I called them comfort bags because, I didn't want to call them a blessing bag and just at Christmas. People call them blessing bags because it's Christmas. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to stop at Christmas. I want to make these Ziploc bags. And, some people gave cash donations where I went grocery shopping the same day that I would make these bags. I put some eggs in there, cheese strings, yogurts, anything like that. And I made about 35 big freezer bags, put them in my vehicle, and I would literally drive around with a friend, and we would go and look for people that looked like they were struggling. And there was a moment, where I had some blankets and some items in my vehicle, and I went to work one day, and there was an individual in the storefront, and I didn't even know if she was alive, but I went in my vehicle, and I had some blankets and some comfort food, and I went up and I woke her up. I said, "Excuse me, miss." I said, "I have some items for you." And she goes, "Oh my goodness." She goes, "I'm so sorry. It was raining last night and I needed, a place to kind of go under." And so I said, "Well, if you can move to the next storefront," I said, "because they're not open this weekend." I said, "We can get you settled." And so it took her a good 10 minutes. She's about 30 years old. It took her 10 minutes. And there was a crack pipe that had fell out of her pocket. And you could see that she had an accident, number two. Not to be detailed, but these are the situations that, and I'm trying to be kind of a compassionate at the same time to, just be very kind. And so it took her a good 10 minutes to get up, and I moved her to the other side, and I gave her a couple blankets, and I gave her some food, and somebody had donated a bunch of big chocolate bars, and I set her up nice, even just items like that are soft, because, with dental, a lot of individuals that are on the streets, they don't have proper dental. So anything that's like applesauce, soft granola bars, I put that bag together, but she almost was in tears that I had kind of tucked her in with a blanket and got her set up. And, I came out 3 hours later and gave her a water bottle, and I just checked in. I said, "What's your first name?" And she told me her name. And even when I had asked her that was, another, it looked like she was tearing up a little bit. But, going out in the community and even just, handing out bags, there's moments where, this one lady, she had her face like really beaten up, and I don't think she went and got medical attention, but she received the bag. And the approach going up to people is interesting because, with all the, I'm not going to get into the media and shelters and police and cutting up the tents and this and that, but as we understand, what's actually going on out there. Somebody who works full-time and part-time, I work 12 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and the cost of living with rent or being on, anybody that's on ODSP, or if it's, social assistance, $550 is not a lot of money. I don't even think nowadays you can even rent a room to room and board for that. So these individuals, we talk about the hope of these people, and then we get into the mental health and the addictions. Again, I'm an individual that was super blessed, and I don't think that the correctional system, they may lay charges on these people, but I don't think that there's a lot of room in the shelters or in any kind of incarceration. It's very limited. So, and it costs a lot of money, for somebody to be incarcerated, and the shelters, right? But the shelters with the scheduling, okay, you're allowed to be in there at this time, and then you got to go out and look for a job, or you got to be out at this time, and then it's a very strict schedule. I know many individuals that work at shelters, and again, it comes down to funding and supports. But also, if you're an individual that's been on the street for 20 years and you know how to live it, I walked up to this one guy. He's on the corner of York, and I think it's Hess, around downtown, but he's lived there for a couple of years, and I actually went to go visit him. And I brought him a basket, and I had some items in it, and he said, no, I don't need any more. And I was like, okay, well, can I give you a gift card? So I went to go give him a gift card, and I said, he thanked me so much. And he goes, why do you want to help me? And I said, just to make a difference, there's some good humans out there. And he lives under a tarp, so he actually dug a hole and has a tarp so that the police or anybody else can't cut his tent or knock it down. So he literally, I'm like, this guy's living like a groundhog. Like and the look of their hands, it tells a story for sure. And church storefronts or storefronts or any kind of front of any kind of building, these people are they're doing shift work. So if they do have a tent set up, there's 3 people, say, living in this tent, and there's 3 others standing in front of this tent to guard it, and then they take turns. Or a lot of them will sleep during the day and stay up during the night for safety or whatever that is. But it is a mess out there, and I think it's even more of a mess now because it was like, I have 35 bags, I'm going to drive around. And when you drive around looking for people that are struggling, it's a very sad world. But I look at it as this, is that I almost can't allow myself to get sad. I have to just do the work and make that difference. And whatever donations come to me, if it's clothing, blankets, hats, mitts, I keep in my vehicle. So I'm like mobile. So even when we pull up, we're going to Walmart and we see somebody coming up, and they're holding a sign up. Not necessarily that we have to give them cash, but even if we have a couple little bags in our vehicles of granola bars or even a blanket, and then it's passing them the items that we have in the vehicle. It doesn't always have to be, cash. I think that items. So I also go to a couple different tent cities. It's a mess. They're not organized. They're not, it's almost like injections that are not safe. Like there's needles, it's a mess and it's sad. So we go out to, I have 2 other individuals that go with me. I actually have a cell phone number that I text, the person that's, not, I guess, in charge. I guess you could say in charge. They have generators. There's some that are out in the bush that, I go at a certain time. They trust me, and I've been doing that since November. And I asked them, I'm like, what do you need? And there's people that have donated like all year round tents that will survive the winter. And there's people that are taking turns, to go and collect money for gas to fill the generator. And it's, I even asked them, I said, how much does it cost? So that there's, different tent cities that have, it's like a village and they're living off the land. And, but there's also the addiction part and there's the mental health, right? So, so that's kind of like my story and the outreach.
It's an abrupt ending there because the interview with Jessica is actually, the full interview is 30 minutes long. I will be uploading that to our YouTube channel and posting a link for those of you who want to see the full unedited video of the interview. And I'll also be posting links to Jessica's work in Hamilton for those of you who are curious to learn more about the work that she does in the city. But I want to highlight just a couple of simple things. Jessica, because she's got a strategy there that can work for us. She saw a need and just responded with what she had in terms of resources. She started a Facebook group to collect supplies that she would then drive down into Hamilton and just give to people that she found on the streets. No necessarily organized system. She would just go and look for people who were in need. She would take things like blankets and coats and boots and socks and mitts and hand warmers and food and just give it to people she found. She had a place where a friend volunteered to loan her garage to organize the stuff and bag it up and then take it down into Hamilton. Those are all things we could easily do here in a church. Easily do here in a church. We've got the space to collect stuff, to organize it, to bag it, and we've got people who could drive it down into the city and hand it out. That doesn't make the problem go away, but it does make it a little bit easier for those who are unhoused at this moment to maybe get through the next day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever. Old tents, they'll take donations of those. Anything. Those are things we could do. We also can get ourselves connected to the organizations and agencies in Hamilton that are advocating for the poor and the unhoused and help to tackle the problem at the systemic level as well. As a congregation, we've got the opportunity to respond at both levels. If you feel moved by this to do something, then I want to invite you to join us on Zoom, unfortunately, because we're still in this pandemic, but join us Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on Zoom. I will post a link on the church website. Not going to do it on YouTube, but I will post, because it's too easy to get into the wrong hands there, but I will post a link on our church website for those who are interested in joining us for a conversation Wednesday night, and not just a conversation that leads to talk about about this, but a conversation that says, what can we at St. James do to begin to help to respond to this need now? I invite you to join me Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on Zoom, because we can make a difference. Thanks be to God. Please join us in singing Deep in Our Hearts, and you can remain seated or stand as you are comfortable, whichever you prefer.
Flowing to freedom like
invite you to remain standing as we reaffirm our faith together, reciting the United Church's new creed, which is found on the screen. We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God, who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus, crucified and risen, our judge and our hope. In life, in death, in life beyond death, God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. Please be seated. At this time in our worship, if it was not a pandemic, we would invite you to present your offerings as we would collect those up, but we do not do that during the pandemic, so there is a basket at the back, and you are invited to donate your offering as a retiring offering at the end of the service, but we will take this moment in our time of prayer to give thanks to God for the blessings God has given us and to bless these offerings. Let us continue in prayer. God of service, God of the rich and God of the poor, you have called us and you have laid a spark on somebody's heart here today, either here in person or joining us online. Let that spark be fanned into a flame of an idea. Let a new congregational ministry arise from this worship time and come to fruition in our planning this Wednesday. May we take action in the streets where action is needed to connect with and help the needs of the homeless, even if just in a small way. We may not be able to solve the problem of homelessness, but we may be able to help reduce the suffering, even just for a day or two. God, we bless you for the work that Jessica has done and continues to do, and others like her who are out there already ahead of us. May we follow in their footsteps. May we follow in the path that they have blazed. We thank you, God, for all that you give to us. And we express our thanks to you, God, this morning through our offerings, through the offerings of the time that we give to help other people, of the offerings of the talents that you have blessed us with, the skills and abilities that you have blessed us with that we can share with others to be a blessing to others, and of the treasure that you have blessed us with that we can share for the support of the work of others in helping the needs of others. We take these offerings and we lift them before you now, and we give you thanks and praise. Lead us, God, in our mission, and lead us in our prayers as we sing together the words that Jesus taught us.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial and deliver us from evil.
I invite you to stand for our closing songs, Amazing Love and Go Make a Difference.
I'm accepted. You working down.
Let your love shine on. Let it shine for all to see. Go make a difference in the world. The Spirit of Christ will be with us as we go. Go make a difference in the world. We can make a difference. God bless, folks, and we will see you next week, and hopefully we'll see some of you Wednesday night on Zoom. Take care and God bless.